Welcome to the Men of Action podcast. I'm your host. My name is Zach, and with me, I got a special guest. I got Nick Marsh, aka also known as the Gut Health Master, someone who struggles with some gut health issues, and we're going to learn more about that today and how he's used that story to not just help himself by taking care of himself, both physically and mentally, but also how he's using that story to help other people. So, Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. We've known each other for a handful of months now, and I just love the content, the fitness content you're putting out, all the strength conditioning you're putting out, and more importantly, having your own personal story of some gut issues that you're really working through today, and just some of the things that you're really being mindful of to make sure that you take care of yourself. So, why don't you spend a few minutes just telling us about who is Nick Marsh?
100%. We'll do that. Yeah, so I'm Nick. I'm born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've been here all my life. And growing up, I was always like one of the athletic kids, played football, rugby, track, basketball, you name it. I played it, loved all that. And in high school, during football season, I was a senior. I had some gut issues. Like I was having diarrhea, turned bloody, got really bad. It was bad for weeks. I lost a ton of weight and I didn't know what was wrong. So I went to the doctor and I did a colonoscopy and I found out that I had ulcerative colitis, which is an inflammatory bowel disease that essentially my whole colon and large intestine is inflamed. So they put me on medication, got better. And I went through the rest of my senior year, just kind of like living somewhat normal life. And then in the spring of my senior year, I got a bacterial infection called Clostridium difficile, which made all of my symptoms way worse. Like they put me on antibiotics. They tried pretty much a lot of this different stuff. It didn't work. They ended up doing a fecal transplant where they take healthy bacteria, healthy gut bacteria, or like healthy human shit, and they put it down my throat through a tube into my gut, and it like pushes out the bad bacteria, introduces new good bacteria. So it actually worked pretty well. But that was one bacterial infection, and then I got another same infection about 8 months later. So that infection made everything way worse. And I went through college trying to be like a normal college kid, but I couldn't do that because I had a gut disease. You just can't live a normal life. So I just kind of accepted my fate of someone that was going to be, attached to the healthcare system all my life. Was never able to cure this disease. It was just a part of me. I take meds and I hope for the best. So that's what they told me. So that's what I thought. That's all I got, right? And then for those first 2 years of college, I was a college kid. I was drinking, I was partying, and my health got worse and worse. My systems got worse. My inflammation spread. I was unofficially on track to probably getting cancer down the line if I didn't do anything, and like colon cancer. So in 2020, I started to write the ship. Like in the summer, I started getting back in the gym, started lifting weights, started fixing my diet, started identifying what things I could do to improve my health. And fitness and diet were the biggest things, but also like finding a purpose, like actually doing better in school and trying in classes, which is what I thought I wanted to do at the time. But also realizing that life is bigger than just like the mundane kind of day-to-day stuff you do in college or in school or whatever. And it's like, what do I actually want to do with my life? Because I knew that I didn't want to have this disease dictate what I do with my life. And once I realized that was when, okay, let's actually get this fixed. So like I said, fitness, diet, finding a purpose and finding something that I can actually help people with instead of just chasing after the bag, trying to get a job out of college with a lot of money, a lot of big salary. And that's what kind of drew me to Twitter. Like I had a bunch of job opportunities coming out of college and I work full time right now. But instead of going to grad school, instead of going for like a higher paying job, I decided, okay, I found something on Twitter. I found a community of people that I can help. I found a community of people that are, kind of challenging the norm health wise and making money wise. Like you can make money outside of a 9 to 5. You can be healthy outside of the whatever you see on the news or you see in a supermarket. Like you can carve your own path, which I think most people don't realize. And I'm here to kind of help spread that. And especially with your health, especially with your gut, especially with those kinds of things. And the last year has been like insane. I could have never imagined where I'd be here a year ago, even though I was on this Twitter journey a year ago. It's just, you never really know, which is what makes life exciting, right? Like the unknown. It's scary, but it's exciting because I saw what my life looked like in 20 years if I followed what all my family members did and all the people around me in Cincinnati. I'm like, all right, I don't want that because I'm just not built for that. I have a disease. I can't go drink every day. So,
Right.
decided not to. And now we're on this journey. Now we're impacting people's lives. And we're getting all the homies gut health maxing this year.
Nice. So I know you got the disease in high school. Do you have any family history of it, or like how did it come about? Like, did you eat something? Was something some food, or like how did something like that develop?
Yeah. So IBDs, inflammatory bowel diseases like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, and there's other ones too. Those are the main ones.
Right.
They are a genetic disease, so it's common that you get it if a family member has it. Like my cousin, my second cousin, I think, he has Crohn's.
Okay.
So my doctor wasn't surprised when we told them that when I got diagnosed. And then kind of leading up to when I got diagnosed, I had eaten healthy all my life. Like my mom raised me right, eating organic foods,
Okay.
no processed foods. So that was not an issue. But my senior year there's a couple things that happened that year. Like my mom was iffy about a couple shots I got, but I'm not really going to talk about that. And then there's one of the first times I got plastered at homecoming. So that probably did something. And then I did a pizza challenge, like us football players. We went to a pizza place before playing our rival, St. X. I went to Moeller for people who's from Cincinnati. And we call it the Bomber Challenge, which is the mascot of our rivals, the Bombers. And the Bomber Challenge is you have an 8-pound pizza. It's a calzone style. So each slice is a pound. And you and a partner have to eat the entire thing in 30 minutes. And you get it for free.
8 pounds in 30 minutes.
Yes. So basically, I'd eat 4 pounds, and my partner would eat 4 pounds. And
still,
this was like O linemen, big guys doing it. And I'm not an O lineman. I was a tight end. But I was like 10 pounds heavier, and they moved me to O line because people were hurt, and they had no one else to do it. It's like, all right, Nick, you're going to go play O line. And I probably ate 2.5, 2 3/4 pieces. I couldn't even get 3 pieces in. I felt terrible. Like just all the different meat and the sauce and the calzone. I hated pizza for a while. But that also was a couple weeks before I first started having symptoms. So it was probably a collection of things that happened in my life. I also had a lot of stress going on with a girl and like a crazy ex that was happening too. So just a lot of things that were foreign to me happened at the same time, right around the time that is common to get diagnosed with the disease. Like it was probably going to happen regardless. That probably just those culmination of events set it off.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I know that's like one of the biggest things that people ask me is like, they want to know like the one thing that led them down to this like track of like this way of life.
Yep.
And typically it's never just one thing. It's typically a multiple things. And, stress is one of those, it's a silent killer. It really is. It affects the whole body, the nervous system, cardiovascular system. I mean, it affects everything, every aspect of life. I mean, that's why when you talk about people, they get that tightness in their stomach.
100%.
Especially if there's a crazy ex involved, and now you got some resentment or some fear and some worry going on because what level of crazy?
That was the first time I was actually not hungry. Like I was so anxious and so stressed I couldn't eat, and I was someone who ate everything in sight. I was a big football player. Like I'm 6'4", 215, 220, but I couldn't eat. I was like freaking out because I thought this dude was going to go kill himself. I'm like, okay. So yeah, it is no joke.
Gotcha. So what kind of helped you to kind of develop that mindset? Because I know you talked a lot about in college going from like drinking, partying, and grades being kind of I'm sure decent. Because I think one time on Twitter you posted like you had like this like massive headache and like passed like some exam, I believe, or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was when I got concussion.
Yeah,
That was from rugby. Yeah, that was like a year and a half ago. So I was doing better health wise. That was just an unfortunate concussion and a professor telling me. But yeah, the concussion story is I was at practice and we were just running some plays, like it was half speed kind of. So there was one play where I picked up the ball and I was just supposed to beat a defender and score.
Right.
And I was running the ball I just threw like a half stiff arm to a guy in his chest, and I think I hit him a little harder than he expected, so he got pissed. Like he grabbed my arm and just threw me over his head, and I landed head first into the turf. Like this was a practice, like a walkthrough kind of jog
Right.
through. So I ended up. I don't remember the next like 15 minutes after that. I just remember I teleported to the sideline. I had like hay on my head. I was like, "Coach, I don't feel so good, whatever." And this is like a night practice, so
Oh, geez, that's
um,
even worse.
I know, right? So I was like, all right, I got to go to bed in 2 hours. This is not good. So everyone was telling me, like, you can't go to sleep. Like, you have to stay up or
Right.
like sleep for an hour at a time. I don't really know how that works. So
I
I
don't
had to
know
get
either.
driven
Now
home.
I'm hearing so many conflicting research where now it's like almost like you want to rest, but there's still that knowledge of like, do I rest? Do I not sleep?
Right. I was just sitting there fighting demons, like, do I go to bed? I think Thursday night football was on. So I had something to do. Like, all right, I'll just watch football. I like
There you
football.
go.
So I just sat there in my bed. Yeah. Or I had to get driven home because I lived off campus. So my
Mhm.
buddy drove me home and watched football, tried to stay up as long as I could that night. Woke up the next morning. Actually, either that night or early in the morning, I had to email my professor and tell him, hey, I can't come into the exam. I have a concussion. Like it was that next morning, within 12 hours of getting the concussion. So he's like, sorry to hear that. But the latest you can take this is Saturday. And granted, this exam was Friday morning. So he gave me a day, essentially a day and a half to take it. So I went to the doctor, got diagnosed with my concussion, which I already knew I had,
Right.
and went home. I mean, I don't know, just chilled. I couldn't do anything. So I just went home. I think my mom drove me home, chilled, and then woke up Saturday morning to take the exam, which actually did pretty well on all things considered. Like,
Yeah, I remember
man, I
that's what I
was
was
fighting deep.
surprised,
It
like,
felt like
concussion,
I
and
was
then you did it.
hungover. Yeah, it felt like I was hungover trying to take an exam. I was like, what am I doing here? So I took the exam, probably got like a 70 something on it, not too bad. And then
Okay.
I went and watched my guys go play rugby because I couldn't play.
I'm surprised, like, because you had like a medical, and typically it takes people weeks, right, to recover from. I've never had a concussion, but I know it
Yeah,
takes a
I
while
missed
to.
two matches. Yeah, so I was out for 2 weeks. Usually it's 1 to 2. I mean, the NFL or something, pro leagues, they can get it by quicker.
I
They
was
got
gonna
extra.
say now we're talking about something that's a little bit different
Right,
versus
exactly.
coverage.
But for me, yeah, I was out at least 2 weeks just to be safe.
Yeah,
And that's
no,
no
that's
joke. It's got to, yeah, with all the
did anything
modern
happen to the player
research we
that
have on
kind
it.
of took things a little
Mhm.
bit too far?
What was that?
Like, how was your relationship with the player who just got blindsided with some, let's say, some minor rage?
Well, this guy has a history outside of rugby. Like he's now been rumored as a sexual predator. He's like a guy from Africa, and
Okay,
he says he's like a Nigerian prince. All this stuff. I mean, he was actually like athletic, but he was also just like a super big ego. Like just all the check boxes were there's X's in all of them. Like
okay.
never be friends with this guy. Whatever. So he was
So
bad
pretty much
news,
once you were
and
done, you guys just kinda stopped doing any type of association or anything?
pretty much, yeah. I
Got
never associated with him other than rugby, so
okay.
that was good. But we pretty much told him like, "Dude, you're not playing anymore." I think he went out and on a super late night bender the
Yeah,
day before one of our big matches, and he was supposed to be like a backup. And coach is like, "You're not playing. Come on now." Like we're club, but like we're like, dude, come on, you can't do that.
right. So kinda going
Yeah.
back to your gut health, like, so what do you do now to make sure, like, your whole system's functioning as best as possible?
Yeah. So everything I've kind of done up to this point has just been a constant iteration over the past like 2 years.
Mhm.
So what I start with is diet. I believe it's the biggest like lever that you can pull if you're trying to fix your gut or try to
Mhm.
like eliminate something that would cause you symptoms or cause you any sort of issues. So my diet, it used to be just like I don't know, frozen meals and just like random foods at the store that were kind of like prepackaged, just easy to cook. I never cooked raw foods, but now it's I'm eating eggs every morning. I'm doing bone broth or glutamine every like on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Both huge for helping repair the gut.
Right.
I do fruit all the time, bananas, wild blueberries, mangoes, pineapple, stuff like that. I'll do potatoes, sweet potatoes, and then tons of ground beef, steak, definitely grass fed when I can get it, or if it's a good solid price. I'll do salmon, wild caught salmon, chicken thighs, sometimes chicken breast too. Mix it in there. I do other cuts of meat like lamb or bison or elk, just like different ruminant animals, ground red meat, and then lots of raw honey. I love me some honey. I'll put it on everything. You probably see me tweet it. I put it on my eggs. I'll put it on my burgers. Exactly. Yeah. I put it on my eggs. It's really good.
How does that taste? Okay, because I just myself probably the last like handful of months because I keep seeing people putting like honey on their steaks. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this out. Yep. I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Yep.
So how's with egg?
I enjoy it. And now when I eat it without honey on accident, I was like, oh, this is weird. I forget what eggs taste like, but
what kind of eggs like scrambled, like over easy?
I usually do scrambled. It's easiest.
Okay.
Yep. I used to do over easy a lot too, but I switched to a different pan, and it just the pan I use is like a ceramic nonstick, so it just does better scrambled.
Okay.
Because it's harder to flip the eggs because they like stick together and they like always break. So scrambled's the way to go. But yeah, raw honey, mix that into the diet. And my diet is like slowly turning into, if you know who Carnivore MD is, Paul Saladino. He talks a lot about diet stuff and gut health stuff because he's had issues.
So. You have to shoot me that link.
Yeah, I'll have to. He does mostly red meat. He does like organs. I don't do organs, but I'm gonna start doing the like beef organ supplements just to see how I feel because I've had guys tell me that they feel better just from taking the supplement versus like eating liver. I don't think I'm there yet.
I mean, I used to do like beef liver vitamins. I didn't really notice a huge difference when I was taking them, but maybe you will because it might affect you a little bit differently.
Right. Could be. It's definitely affects everybody a little bit differently. It could be a awareness thing, like how in tune are you with your body? So you might be in a better spot now to try it if it was a while ago. So it depends. Yeah. But it's like, red meat, liver, fruit, and like raw dairy is what he does. That's like all he does. And I'm getting into raw dairy and researching it a ton, seeing a ton of benefits. And honestly, like I do better with like low temp pasteurized dairy, if you know what that is, where they just pasteurize it at a lower temperature. So it does better on the gut than like typical pasteurized dairy because a lot of people are lactose intolerant. A lot of people have gut issues, which is me. I don't know if I'm lactose intolerant. I just know I have a dairy sensitivity. So that could be different.
So probably to some degree, you probably do. I mean, if you're sensitive to dairy, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's common for people with an IBD to eventually have intolerance. It's pretty much a guarantee. But raw milk can be the savior there. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I see that like the raw kefir kind of milk. I mean, I see that all the time.
Kefir as well. Yep.
Is very popular. Like I was like, I mean, I'm not a milk guy, so I don't really like milk. But I was like trying to figure out like how to make overnight oats and trying to be like a little bit healthier.
Yep.
And I was trying to like look for that kind of stuff. I couldn't find it. I obviously didn't go to like a health food store. I just went to like a regular grocery store. But I was like trying also like you do my research, like, okay, what is healthy? Because there's so much research out here. There's so much like for it, not for it. There's this, there's that. It's like
exactly.
So it's like, I mean, it's hard because you have to really do your own homework and figure out 100%. What works for you.
I think about that a lot. Like it's not going to always hit hard on a tweet, but you can find a study for or against anything you want to try. So you already know the answer. It's just like you just got to go try it, see if it works, and if it doesn't, don't die on that hill just cause. Like if you can if you want, but if people are going to come after you. So if you try and it works, own it. And if you try and it doesn't work, also own that and just move on. Try something else. So I've had people say kefir works, but people say kefir doesn't work. So.
Well, it's like anything. It's like I remember like there was a post of someone's posting on their food and it was like, rate my food.
Yep.
And it was like a giant piece of steak. I think there was like another piece of meat the guy had. And I'm like, hey, this is all good and dandy, but you want to be careful with how much protein you have because unless you're burning it off, that extra protein can turn to fat and you can actually gain more weight. And then I went and then like after that was just like open basically like Hell's Gate because everyone's just like, nope, wrong. And then it's like, you're right, you're wrong, you're right, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like you have to burn the protein off. You can't just like eat a bunch of protein and expect nothing to happen. So
yeah. I don't know as much about that specifically, but I will say that at least.
But I mean, you're a guy who
protein will help you
working out, and you can burn it off. You're okay.
Right. Yeah. It does. I mean, it will help a lot just from because you burn more through digesting it, and you burn
Yeah.
more by. I mean, yeah, that, and then totally lost my train of thought. Also, it's really that, and then not overeating other foods. I think is the two biggest things. Plus gains is the third part. So obviously, yeah, if protein does not fill you up, you will gain weight. Like protein is naturally supposed to fill you up. But yeah, I
Right.
see where you're coming from.
I mean, I have nothing against like protein or anything. I'm all for
Right.
protein because the more that you introduce protein, it is true, the longer you are full. It's just making sure that you don't overdo it. And again, it determines that how active you are too, to make sure you're burning it off. So it's like if you see like a lot of guys who are eating like 4 or 5 eggs, they're working out quite a bit. I think you eat like about what 3 to 5 or something like that.
Yeah, I eat 5 a day usually, sometimes 6. That's my breakfast almost every day. Before or if I have a workout, it's after. If I don't have a workout, I still eat it. It's just
Yeah.
it's make sure I get my nutrients every day, no matter what. Like that's
Mhm.
the most nutrient dense food I eat, and then tastes pretty good. I might switch it up on the seasoning every now and again. I add honey to it. That makes it easy to eat it every day too when I'm not feeling it. And
Yeah, you should
then
try adding some like onion powder to some of the egg batter. It tastes really
mhm,
good.
I do usually it's like I'll do pepper, salt and pepper, and then I'll do like chipotle powder. I really like that.
Ooh,
Add a little
good
kick to it.
combination. Hey, if you want to try, put down in the comments below some of your favorite egg recipes. So that way we can learn and enjoy eggs. Because honestly, especially when you're in fitness, gotta love them eggs.
100%.
So how are you using I know I've been following you for as long as I've been following you, you're all about the gut health. So how much of an impact like have you noticed through your tweets and other promotional things that you do of the impact they've been making to whether it be your friends, family, the community that you're a part of?
Yeah, I have definitely noticed it with friends and family because just like by doing my thing, I've had my family always asking me questions, ask me
Hmm.
what I'm doing. They'll ask me for input, like, "Hey, I just got blood work done. Like, what do you think?" Or, "Hey, I'm trying this, um, like super esoteric stuff, like trying the raw milk, trying the grass fed meat, trying all this stuff." And I'm like, "Yes, I love this." And then it gets tricky though because sometimes you want to give advice to family, but family are like the last people that'll listen to you. It's kind of weird. I'm sure you can relate there. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about? Because it's like if someone wants something done, they hire a professional to go to do it. They're not going to hire their brother because they're like, "Oh, you're just my bro," like that kind of thing.
Right.
Which that kind of you can tread water when you run into that. But overall, very helpful for my family. And I've had people DM me on Twitter, like people from my high school days, people from my college
Mm.
days saying, "Hey, I love what you're doing. Hey, I love how you're talking about XYZ. Love how you're just doing your thing." And then I've also received the other end of the spectrum. I've lost some friends, had people block me, obviously that's just nature of the beast. And I can't do anything about
Okay,
that.
who would
That's
block you? You're like the most like you're like one of the top like guys who's like positive, produces like nothing but like encouragement and like just try and make an impact. I mean, I know there's always gonna be trolls and everything, right?
yep.
But still.
Yeah, it was tough. Like a few months ago, one of my closest friends from my younger days, like he blocked me on all platforms just
Whoa.
about like something that was he thought was controversial. And we just see things very differently now. We're on different paths, and he
Okay.
didn't agree with the message that I was, I guess, or like tweets I was liking. So it is what it is. I'm past that. Like I wish the best for him, but I'll probably
Yeah.
never see him again. That's okay.
That's what's
But
hard though. It's like you like one thing and all of a sudden people like are like, well, why'd you like that? It's like could have just been an interesting thought or a good just sometimes tweets are just whether you agree with them or not, sometimes they're just so structured, so wow that it's like you can't help but like it because it brings a valid point.
mhm. Yeah,
So
it was definitely a culmination of things, but it was a pronoun tweet from one of my close friends.
uh
I mean, if
I
you
was, I
know
was wondering if it
Gabe
was a little bit more
Pluguez, it was one of his tweets. He tweeted about
okay. I can
pronouns,
just
like
picture but some of his tweets
exactly,
like
like Gabe. I know you know Gabe. So it was that tweet, and I liked the tweet, or I replied to it, and probably just like giggling because Gabe, just the way he tweets about that stuff's funny sometimes.
he would.
But my buddy saw me like that tweet or whatever, and he just went off on me. He like railed into me. I was like, all right, well, I mean, best of luck to you, buddy. I don't really know what to tell you. Like, you're just projecting your insecurity onto me, and sure, you can tell me how you feel. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I wish them the best. I took the high road. I didn't feel like dealing with that because I used to let those kind of people get to me. Like,
Okay.
naturally, if you have friends in high school and college, you guys like to dick around. You have
Yeah.
your jokes and stuff. And those same guys I used to hang out with, I still love them to death to the day I die, even though I don't really hang out with them anymore. But they had those jokes, but then it just kind of went too far with some of this stuff, I guess. And now we're at a point where just moved on for them. It was for the best.
Okay. How has that been on your stress level? Kind of like making peace with that? Because I know you mentioned kind of struggling with stress a lot, especially with the ex. And is that typically how you would like experience stress? Like you feel in your stomach, or like is that like the main focus that you feel it in? And I guess how are you kind of handling some of that stress now to make sure like you are taking that one more step to take care of that gut health?
It's something that I have noticed. It's like a flaw in my approach and something I've had to tinker with and figure out. Maybe it's just something I was getting complacent, or maybe it's just something I was blindsided by. Where
Mhm.
at first I kind of had an identity crisis, where not a full identity crisis. I was just kind of questioning my belief a little bit.
Okay.
Of I just lost one of my best friends because we didn't see eye to eye on this stuff. And
Mhm.
it's like, now where do I go from here? Like, am I gonna let this kind of define my future? Am I gonna let this define where I'm going next, or am I just gonna keep doing my thing because the good that I've done has outweighed the bad, or like the good comments has much outweighed the bad comments.
Right.
And the bad comments are from a place of insecurity, like they have their own stuff going on in their life, which I understand. I
Yeah.
wasn't even like, might have been mad at him in the moment, but I understand, like, everyone has their own shit going on in their life. So if I say something that triggers them, I can't coddle. I don't want to coddle them into a corner. Like, I want them to like figure your shit out,
Mhm.
because you should be taking accountability for your actions, kind of thing. You should be taking responsibility. I'm doing the same for mine with my health. And if you don't agree on a trivial political stance, I guess, then that's on you, bud. So, but yeah, it did. I did have some effects on my gut. It did have that effect on my identity. But once I just kind of take a step back, like, I have really good people around me, a good community. I have great things going for me. Like, my health is doing way better than it was, a year or two ago. I have opportunity to pursue a career doing this stuff. And it's just like a moment where you can kind of count your blessings, um, physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever it is.
Right. So do you have like a coaching program then, since you mentioned like you can pursue a business in this, or are you in some type of like industry then?
Yeah. So, I mean, my 9 to 5 is not anything related to this. It's just a job I got
Okay.
out of college in
Sure.
facility maintenance. But for coaching, yes. So right now, my offer's not finalized yet, but I am putting together something for gut health, something for kind of holistic health, and it's going to be diet nutrition. I already do that right now. So like
Mhm.
right now, I work with J.R. Smith, if you know him,
Yep. Yep. Connected with
in
him.
his gym. I partner with him, so I'm his nutrition guy. So anybody that's in Cleveland or Amherst wants to go to check out the House of Steel, I do nutrition for him, and I'm taking clients now. As
Nice.
for the one-on-one stuff, if you have any questions, I'm putting that all together right now. But essentially, if I can give you the picture of what it looks like right now, is you come to me with a gut issue, and my goal is to help you fix that, or just find a way to get you from maybe a similar place to where I was to where I
Mhm.
am now, right? That kind of thing. And you don't have to have IBS. Like, I'm not saying that's a
Right.
disqualifier if you don't have IBS. I think if I took a deeper look at like 99% of the people I know, I could point out some sort of issue they have and tie it back to their gut. And if they fix their gut, it would fix that problem, because it's everything is pretty much everything is tied to the gut health wise, because everything stems from some sort of inflammation, and
Mhm.
everything can be tied back to the gut in some way. Because, like, you've probably heard about how the brain has the most neurons in it, and then the gut has the
Right.
second most. Like, the gut has millions bacteria, millions of neurons. So
Oh yeah.
when you're stressed, you feel it in your brain and your gut. When you're hungry, you feel it in your brain, you feel it in your gut. When you're happy, you feel it in your brain, your gut. It's all connected. So if you have acne, if you have, you know, sleep apnea, I don't know, if you have any sort of issue, if you have any sort of inflammation, there's almost, I'm going to say like 99% of the time, there's an imbalance in the gut that can
Mhm.
be fixed through diet, through lifestyle, through managing stress, through, I don't know, exercise, sunlight. I mean, basic stuff like that. And you can get into the weeds a little bit, but I believe that 99% of problems can be improved, maybe not solved because it's multifactorial. Like at the end of the
Right.
day, you gotta, if you're stressed or if you're depressed because you had a family member that, maybe they lost their life or in a bad health condition, fixing your gut's not going to fix that. You might have to go face that, but it might help by actually like doing the other things right to help you get into a good spot where you can go fix that actual thing. If that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense because there's actually like a nerve or something that like a stem that goes from the brain to the gut actually.
The gut brain axis. Yep.
Yep. There's more of a technical term for it. It's not coming to my recollection at this time.
Yeah, there's probably a lot more medical term that's like super
Yeah.
long.
But basically, it's like when people talk about having that gut feeling that something's not right, that's basically your brain and your stomach kind of like
Communicating.
aligning in a way where it's like follow it because it's like your body's trying to tell you something. And in my practice, I always tell people be mindful of your body. Your body's a wonderful mechanism, basically computer that you need to listen to. So if it's
Mhm.
not in operation, you need to fix it.
Yep.
And fixing it just means changing a few things about your health, whether it be your diet and doing that gradually. I'm not sure if you experienced this too, but I had a friend when I was in graduate school wanting to go from who was drinking lots of coffee with cream and sugar,
Yep.
and they want to go completely healthy. So they went from like completely unhealthy to completely healthy by meaning like juicing. And that they were like, I know asking me about some advice. I'm like, do it gradual because you're gonna get sick. Fortunately, they did not heed that and they got sick for a few days.
Hmm.
So I'm glad there's people like you who are in this, the Twitter space and who's really being well known and recognized. And I constantly see your following going up, your impact, the structure of your tweets and really focusing on helping a lot of people resolve a lot of gut issues. And that's amazing that you can take an experience that was harmful that took years, not just days, be like, okay, yep, I'm going to do this now. But that discipline and attaching that motivation to it and that purpose to make something out of it, to help other people and to provide a service for that. So definitely have to check you out for your coaching program. So if anyone's watching, definitely DM Nick. All his social media stuff will obviously be in the description below, but he's a great guy. I mean, he's really top notch, always supporting and providing, the best information possible. So one of my main question is, where do you go to like really do your research to make sure, yes, you got on any research, obviously the number one question I learned is who's funding it, but the number two source is how does it really impact you? Because everyone's different, everyone's body is different. So do you have like a favorite like article, science journal, or like how do you do like your research and your homework?
Yeah, this is something I've experimented with a lot. I take from everywhere I can get. Like obviously there's more credible sources than others, but I like
Of
to
course.
see what some of those less credible sources put out there to see like what is it they put out and why they put it out. So like PubMed is easily the best resource I've found because I mean it's PubMed. It's got so many different studies from so many different resources and angles. I actually don't even fully know where they all come from. I just know that they're not as biased, or I guess as one-sided as going on CDC.gov or FDA or whatever, Harvard, those kind of sites. Because if I go there, it's going to tell me red meat's bad,
Right.
plant-based, saturated fat's bad, cholesterol's bad. But there's a ton of research saying it's not. And all the people that I know now that eat it are healthy. It's like, okay, it's like mixing studies with like surveys with anecdotal experiences with
Right.
personal experience of people around you. So I think ultimately it's having that balance because if you only do one versus the other, you're going to be stuck. If you only follow studies, you're going to be living a pretty neurotic life. You're always going to be finding a new study
Right.
that pretty much counteracts what you're currently doing. Even if you feel great, you're going to find a study about how what you're doing is wrong. And then the moment you change it, you feel like shit. And it's also the neurotic thing, just messing with your head. And then you could go
Right.
the other route where you only go off personal experience, which could work actually. If you think about it, if you're just that conscious and aware of your body and how it responds to things, it could work. But if you're doing something and you're just totally unaware of newer research and newer findings on certain things, like if you're still eating, I don't even know. If you're still eating like a diet that people ate hundreds of years ago because they had more fully developed teeth, like you're eating raw nuts all the time and like super like bones, you probably shouldn't do that if you don't have the teeth to do it anymore or something like that. That's a random example. But having that balance and pulling from everywhere, but also finding your own little experiment with it. I think following one single person's advice to a T is short-sighted because everyone is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like gut health wise, this is just gut health. It's such a new topic that no one's gut is the same. Everyone's microbiomes are completely different types of bacteria, different exposure to environments. The diet we eat makes it different. The stress levels we deal with, change it. Everything impacts your gut. So no one's really the same. I mean, granted, a lot of it could be minor. Like most people do well when they actually eat protein if they want to not be malnourished or, actually build muscle. But on a smaller level, it impacts everybody just a teeny bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think personal experimentation is a huge part of your own research. It is ultimately the best form of research within reason. Like I wouldn't maybe not in extreme cases, like maybe you should read about it first before doing it instead of experimenting with, I'm not going to eat for a year because I read about the mental benefits. I mean, good luck.
Yeah,
you might
those people
die.
say like they don't eat for like a year. Like, I know you can go maybe like a month or so, but
I mean, people might just do that just to do it because they're crazy. It's probably part of it. But if you think that's a good idea,
what's their level of stress and physicality, like how active they are? And most of those people may not be that active, whether they just sit and meditate and just relax versus, like what we do. We go to work at a 9 to 5 and then do some extra stuff on the side. And which requires, more stamina. And since it requires more stamina, we need to eat a little bit more. So having a little bit more protein to make sure that we have that. And, when you were mentioning absolutely when we had that discussion about articles, was it like a week ago that I saw like an article? I didn't read it, but it said like how eggs can cause like blood clots or something like that. There was something.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what
Twitter.
Article,
I didn't read it. Right?
I saw a screenshot of whatever, I don't know, it's like Daily Mail or something. It was, they had the blood clot article. And then 3 years before that, they had an article about like a superb benefit of eggs. And people were taking screenshots and like calling them out, like being hypocritical and stuff.
I didn't see that. That would have been awesome to see that.
No, I didn't even read that. I think my mom sent it to me. I'm just like, oh my goodness, come on now.
Yeah. Now, maybe it's the eggs were just a little bit spoiled.
I mean, that's always a valid concern. Maybe they had I know there was the avian flu going around, so maybe you tested some eggs with the flu in it.
Like, if there was some kind of disease or something that got into the egg.
The flu took out like 20% of the chicken population, at least in America. It might have been more. Yeah.
Well,
that's why egg prices went up.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay, so that's why they went up so expensive, then kind of went back down a little. Okay.
Egg shortage. Yep.
Gotta love the flu. It just
never goes away.
Especially for people like you who need to eat like 5 eggs a day just to maintain your health.
Right? It makes everything easier. Otherwise, I'd have to taking all these supplements, eating all these like vegetables that my gut can't digest, which are not just create more issues. So eggs for the win.
What kind of vegetables cause more issues? Just out of curiosity.
Everyone is a little bit different, but like the way vegetables, how like they have these anti-nutrients or defense chemicals where Carnivore MD talks about it a lot, and I just mentioned him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So when people eat it, if they have a gut issue, they have a harder time digesting it, and it can cause bloating, can cause cramping, whatever, diarrhea. Okay. So for me, with having an IBD, my doctors, like they were on this from the start. They were telling me like, watch out for cruciferous vegetables like broccoli or really raw veggies, leafy veggies that are like kale or I guess spinach too. Because it's more of you just kind of trial and error, see what works. And
Okay, yeah, and I
those
know
ones,
those things can cause. I didn't know about broccoli, but I knew about kale can. I believe spinach can cause a little bit more inflammation than what you would think.
right? So any raw vegetable, I mean, there's like one, like carrots aren't as bad raw, but pretty much any raw vegetable are hard to digest. They have like high amounts of fiber, but they're really hard to digest. So for most people, they will cause some sort of gut issue. And vegetables also, it's just harder to get the nutrients from them. It's not as
Mhm.
bioavailable as like fruit or meat. So that's one other
Sure.
thing. Like, I don't do vegetables a ton. I mix it in if they're cooked. Like I'll do cooked carrots or cooked asparagus or potatoes, even though it's not really a vegetable. It's a tuber, but it's what
Right.
it is. What it is. So it's that's where I tell everybody, like, you see, eat your vegetables online. Like that's what they say all the time growing up. And I'm not gonna tell you not to eat your vegetables. I'm gonna tell you eat them. And if they don't bother your gut, you're good. But if they do, don't eat those. Try cooking them. Try a different one that's not as bad.
Yeah.
But honestly, you can get the nutrients from your diet without eating vegetables. Is something I believe too.
Okay.
So it's more a personal thing. Like if you don't like vegetables, like you don't have to force feed yourself if you're freaking miserable eating them. Like I think you can get it if you're eating quality meats. You can get a lot of good nutrients from fruit, I believe. And if you're training, like just eat fruit instead because you're getting good carbs for your training. That's the way I look
Right.
at it.
Well,
If you like
especially when you
vegetables,
put honey, which is like a natural, sugar to
oh yeah,
things.
honey
And
honey is like a
it's
CBD. Yeah.
I know that depending on the kind of honey, especially if you go more like the raw honey, it can be, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a little bit easier to digest.
Oh,
And
100%. Yeah.
so,
Honey's higher glycemic index. So that means it enters your bloodstream quicker, easier to digest, quicker carb. But it's also, I mean, it is lower than sugar. Like it's not going to spike your insulin like sugar will,
sure.
or I mean, yeah, really just any processed form of sugar. And if you have raw honey, there's tons of good probiotics and enzymes in there. It's vitamins and minerals that honestly it's a nice long list. So it's a superfood in and of itself. And you eat it like right before or during or after a workout. I even do a teeny little bit before bed. I've read it helps with sleep, so I've been experimenting with that.
Oh,
Plus, it just tastes great, so I feel good.
hey, you're
You
gonna have to
can't go
let me
wrong with
know.
it.
You're gonna have to like tag or something. Let me know if it's improved your sleep.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that again to see because I read about it. I was experimenting with it. I think I put a tweet out a couple months ago. It releases, I think it's called like tryptophan. I don't know if it's a
Okay.
hormone or something, but it's supposed to help you. I think it's supposed to help you produce melatonin, maybe
Okay.
to help you sleep,
I,
something like that. I forget what it is.
yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but I mean, hey, that's why you do research, right? To
Right?
always learn and grow,
Exactly.
and I think that's what's so important too. And that's why I love everything you said today. Is all about just experimenting. Just try it, figure out what works for you. Have that hypothesis, just that educated guess, and see what works. And if you're noticing something's not working, try something else. I know it's easier said than done, but it's being intentional about really taking time to be serious about your body. Because if we don't take care of our physical body, that's going to affect our mental health. And if that affects our mental health, it's going to go especially back to the physical health, and
Mhm.
then the emotional, and then which affects obviously the motivation and the discipline to want to do something. Because you can kind of get that kind of almost that hopelessness feeling of, well, I tried everything, nothing's worked. Versus trying to have that more, which is a fixed mindset, versus that growth mindset of, okay, good, I found out everything that didn't work. Now I can cross all those out and try to really figure out what could work. And unfortunately, with things, it takes time. I mean, I know
Yep.
you've been on a couple year journey, and you're still trying to figure things out to make sure you take care of your health optimally. So we're just not giving up, enduring that. And that's what we really define as a man of action, because there's a lot of men out there who will talk and just do talking, but there's very few men who will actually take action. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to bring on men who take responsibility, like that they're not going to allow a setback to define who they are, that they're always going to strive forward and keep learning. And Nick, man, you're the definition of a man of action. Just always going after, encouraging other people to take care of themselves, be responsible and accountable, and then having a support group to really help them through the difficulties of life. Because life is not easy. Doesn't matter who you are, life is very difficult. So as we kind of wrap things up a little bit, what is like a message you want to leave with somebody today?
You know, I think for talking about men of action, I appreciate those kind words. I think finding your own path is huge because when I was
Mhm.
younger, I was always in someone else's shadow, like going to school. Everyone knew me as the younger brother. Everybody knew me as like, oh, your dad went to this school, your brother went to the school, your grandpa went to the school, this kind of thing. So I want to break free of that. Or that's what I'm doing. I'm going to probably leave Cincinnati, do my own thing on Twitter, find my own path. So if you're struggling out there to find your identity, like do what you're naturally drawn to do. Whatever career it is, whatever hobbies it is, whatever it is you like to do, go do that. Become a fucking beast at it. Own it. And like people either they have to respect you. If they don't respect you, then that's on them kind of thing. Like you kind of drop that like worrying about what others think of you, because at the end of the day, it only matters what you think of you. And if you think of yourself as a man of inaction, then you're destined to fail. But if you think of yourself as a man of action, you're destined to succeed.
I love it. I love it. Way to end that message, man. So you heard Nick. It's time to go from inaction to action. If you want to improve your life, take one step at a time. Don't worry about changing your whole life in a short amount of time. Life is a journey, not a sprint. So enjoy the ride. Keep that stride going, one step at a time. This has been the Man of Action podcast with Nick on his gut health and in his journey. So Nick, thank you so much for coming, and I hope everyone else has a blessed day.